Good evening, everyone. Can you see this at all, or is it just too small? Okay, all right, great. And one more thing, if you can just pretend that you're students, because this will be a talk I'm giving to a group of students. So, thank you so much. It is fantastic to be here. I'm especially excited because it was only 3 years ago that I was sitting in your seat as a student at this conference. My non-traditional career path was such that I didn't even become a dietitian until I got my master's degree, whereas I think 90% of dietitians get it as an undergraduate. So today I'm going to share with you the 3 different areas of nutrition that I have been in my career. And I'm also going to give you specific action steps in case you're interested in any of these areas. And the areas are international nutrition, working on the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and also private practice. I began to combine my interest of nutrition with traveling when I was an undergraduate, and I studied abroad not only once, but twice. My sophomore year, I went to Costa Rica, and while I was there, I had partnered with a professor in the nursing department, and I began to collect some data for him about transcultural healthcare. So I interviewed Costa Ricans throughout the country about their health habits and their practices and their beliefs when it came to food and health and nutrition. While I was in Costa Rica, I also took a trip to Guatemala, and I continued to collect data there as well. My second study abroad trip was to South Africa, and that was where I was able to take coursework in international nutrition. I had begun my undergraduate career as a dietetics major, but because of the requirements, I opted out of that major and created my own in international nutrition to combine my various areas of interest. After I graduated from college, I returned home and worked for a short time in corporate America. It was not in the nutrition field, and it confirmed my suspicion that I was not going to flourish working behind a desk all day long. But there were definite advantages. I learned administrative skills, and I saved money, and before long I quit my job and I moved to Peru. I was finally able to put my background in international nutrition to work as I volunteered with a Canadian not-for-profit agency. I was in a very small town in the desert of northern Peru, quite far from the capital, and there I taught nutrition programs to school children. The major program I did was a school-wide nutrition curriculum that I went to each classroom and provided an age-appropriate nutrition lesson. And then we gathered in the schoolyard and made these colossal fruit salads. So the little first graders cut bananas, and then the older children, cut pineapple and things that they needed sharper knives for. And then we sang the nutrition song that a friend of mine and I had made in Spanish, and then we had a celebration in the schoolyard. And I also worked with the parents because they're obviously very influential when it comes to making nutrition decisions in the household. And this is a lesson I was giving about eating from the rainbow. In this particular community in Peru, rice and potatoes was the primary staple in the diet. So I was trying to encourage fruit and vegetable consumption. Thanks to a fellow dietitian, I was able to partner with a organization in the capital and provide a solar cooking workshop. Because this community was in the desert, it was very hot, and they lived oftentimes in straw houses and cooked in open fires. So this was obviously a fire hazard to their home, and it also created health problems from inhaling smoke and when it got into their eyes, and they also had to spend a fair amount of their income buying their firewood. So solar cooking was an alternative that hadn't been introduced to this village, so these fantastic women traveled up the 14 or 15 hours on a bus to come to this small town. And after the workshop, I went around the very next day and actually cooked in these solar cookers with the women so that they could see what it was like to actually use them. For the next 6 years after I returned from Peru, I traveled the country and I worked on a government-sponsored health and nutrition study. I interviewed 5,000 people about their health habits and beliefs. And the fascinating thing about NHANES is that it has a very ancient history. Well, not ancient, but in the 1970s, researchers began to find the correlation between health and diet and food and disease. And so this was when NHANES got started. Some major findings have happened from this study, including the correlation between folate and birth defects. All the growth charts in doctors' offices are as a result of the anthropometric data that's been collected on children through the years. And unleaded gasoline today is a result of having too much lead in our blood. And we also fortify our grains as a result of the data that's come from this study. But living on the study is completely different from the data that comes from it. And that's what most people don't get to see. So this is me in my office. I would interview people about the food that they ate. And I did a couple of other types of exams on the study as well. There was 15 people who worked on this team. We did about 15 different exams to everyone who came in. We traveled throughout the entire year, 48 weeks on the road. We drove from place to place, and we lived in hotel rooms. When they were available, we stayed in hotels that had kitchens in them, but when they weren't, we got creative with crock pots. At least the dietitians did, got creative with crock pots and George Foreman grills. The rest of the time, we would have to eat out. And in the center is the map of some of the cities that I lived in. I eventually did get tired of this type of lifestyle. It was great in my 20s, but when I hit my 30s, I really wanted to return to my family and my roots and put down some of my own. So I've moved back to this area. And now I am just beginning a private practice of working with individuals who would like to improve their health and their nutrition. If you would like to be involved in international nutrition, my strong recommendation is to get involved with the American Overseas Dietetic Association and to study abroad or even just travel if that's not possible with your current classes. You can also volunteer either domestically or internationally. If you're interested in working on NHANES, then please talk to me. I can tell you the website and folks to connect with. And you do need to speak Spanish, so you would have to improve your Spanish skills. If you're interested in private practice, there's a phenomenal subgroup of the ADA for nutrition entrepreneurs. Definitely talk to folks who are already in the business and look for CEUs that are related to business. And to close with a quote, do not be satisfied with the stories that come before you. Unfold your own myth. Thank you.